Dr. Fauci, do you still support funding of the NIH funding of the lab in Wuhan?
The NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute. We have not funded gain-of-function research on this. I will repeat again, the NIH and NIAID categorically has not funded gain-of-function research. Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say, I don't know how many times I can say it.
Well, maybe one more. How many times can he say it? Dr. Fauci being very careful with his words with Senator Rand Paul today. Fauci says the NIH and the NIAID never directly funded gain-of-function research at the Institute, the Wuhan Institute of Virology. But like we said, before that's true, but it's also misleading. You see, the NIH, headed by Dr. Fauci, sent $3.7 million to a nonprofit called Echo Health Alliance, which then turned around and sent $600,000 from that grant to the Wuhan lab. I hope you're following that. Take your time, play this back. Dr. Fauci's favorite sparring partner joins us now, Senator Rand Paul. Senator Rand Paul, you feel as though, using some of the things I just said, that Dr. Fauci was being deceptive today. In what way?
Well, I think it's incredibly important that the audience know what gain of function is. They take an animal virus that's benign and does not infect humans, and they juice it up, they make it a super virus so it can infect humans. Now, ostensibly, this is done to study the virus, but there's a danger if that virus leaks that it could kill a lot of people. So when I asked him about this research, we knew the answer. The answer is this, that there's a famous scientist in the Wuhan lab. Her name is Dr. Shi, and she published a paper a couple years ago, which has been reviewed by MIT and says that it's a gain of function research. But in the byline, she has to list the sponsors. She lists Dr. Fauci.
This is a dangerous act. Okay, let's say it's science. I want to stop the next one, so I got to see what happens when we activate these viruses. But other people say it's too dangerous. If this gets out, it's going to be devastating. Somehow, it could have gotten out. Is that what you're saying, Senator?
I don't think we know for sure, but yes, it could have gotten out, and there are a lot of people arguing that there are several different unusual aspects to the virus that make it look like it came from a lab and not from nature. They haven't found an intermediate host. They haven't found anything between the bat and the human. Both SARS and MERS went to an intermediate host, like a ferret or a civet. But the other thing that's peculiar about this is that when we look at this and we say, you know, did it come directly? The way they're studying this in the lab, they studied the SARS virus. This is the one like COVID that came around in 2004, but had a 15% mortality. So they juiced up this already deadly virus and made it more infective into humans in the lab. They've admitted that they did that, but can you imagine 15% mortality? COVID-19 has a 1% mortality. That means instead of 3 million people dying worldwide, if one of the viruses that she worked on with NIH money got out, 45 million people could have died. There are 11 labs like this in the U.S. that are studying animal viruses that they're transforming into deadly human viruses. 11 labs like this in the United States.
So what is important for people to understand is that forgetting about Dr. Fauci and his future or your political future, this is about understanding how this started to stop the next virus. If we don't understand how this started, we're going to get slammed again and we're going to be ill-equipped once again. I don't understand the lack of curiosity from Dr. Fauci. This is his business. Why is that not his obsession rather than being on 25 talk shows a day?
If you want to be even more confounded by this, they wanted to investigate what happened over there. The person they investigated is the head of EcoHealth. So they hired the person to investigate whether there was a problem at the lab. They hired the guy that gave them the money. So if something came out that said this virus came from the lab, do you think the person that gave them the money might have culpability?
Absolutely.
So they hired the guy to do the investigation who has a conflict of interest here. So you start to wonder, all of these wagons are circling. The Chinese communists aren't talking. We gave them the money. I mean, there's a lot of potential problems here. But once again, I'm not saying it did come from the lab. I don't know. But there's a lot of evidence that makes me worried about this lab, and the fact that people are not being honest, the fact that Dr. Fauci would lie and say that he didn't give any money to this lab. Now, maybe his answer is like you said, he gave it to an intermediary who gave it to them. But if that's his answer, I would think that's a kind of a curious way of saying it didn't happen when it really did happen.
And I got to leave it here. 4 months into the coronavirus emergency, the deputy director of the NIH wrote an email to Echo Health. And they said, quote, "You were instructed to cease providing any funds to the Wuhan Institute." Peter Danzig is the chief scientist there. He quickly got 77 Nobel Prize winners to sign a statement saying not to deprive them of their money. What's the desperation to get Western money into an area where we know the virus came from some way, somehow?
But here's the other interesting thing. If Fauci's deputy is writing a note saying that they're going to stop the money, that implies that there was money flowing to the Wuhan Institute. He says no money was flowing to the Wuhan Institute. Well, then why was it stopped? I mean, none of this makes sense. None of it makes sense at all.
And I just wonder when a Democrat, and I hear Senator Menendez and others, are beginning to mobilize to understand that this is national security, and we got to find out. It'll be the biggest liability case in the history of man. And China would be at the forefront, and maybe some others. Senator Rand Paul, thanks for asking the tough questions, especially over the last year, and especially today as it has to do with the science. I know you got 20 million things to do. I appreciate you joining us tonight.
Thanks.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.